right. No. What about a more contemporary nominee, like the Shawshank Redemption?
Ugh. I'll only feel some redemption when there's finally a Saturday afternoon that this claptrap isn't on cable. Even the theatrical release of the Shawshank Redemption had a TNT logo in the corner. Next!
Welcome, little hornbills, to Geek Salad episode 251, part 2, Royale with cheese. I'm Andy.
I'm Mike.
I'm Joe.
I'm Catherine.
And we have a very special guest, as promised, to join in on her now annual look back at 30 years of 90s movies. We have the always impressive M from Verbal Diorama. Welcome back.
Hi, guys. Hi. Happy Christmas to you all.
Yes.
And a Merry New Year, because it's that time of year.
I am going to struggle to get this out by New Year's.
Oh, okay. Well, Happy New Year to everyone listening and to everyone here. And because this has been quite interesting to try and get this together. We're literally doing this right at the end of the year.
Thank
you for having me back.
Oh, you're so welcome. I mean, literally everything that could have possibly gone wrong in the month of December has gone wrong in the month of December. That is our 2024, if you really want to get down to it. But yeah, I am definitely going to try to get this out by New Year's. If you listen to it in 2025, just think back. It was recorded in 2024. But Em, I had a big question for you here. All right. As the only one of the five of us who lives in a country where you have the metric system as your standard of measurement, and I don't know how often you go into a British McDonald's, but is it actually called the Royale with cheese?
So I was in a McDonald's yesterday, actually.
Wow.
I had a McDonald's breakfast with my sister and my nephew before we saw Sonic 3. So yeah, bizarrely, very rarely go to McDonald's, but I was in one yesterday. Do we have a Royale with cheese? No, we don't.
Oh dear.
No, I thought that was in Paris.
Yeah,
it's in Pulp Fiction, it's Amsterdam, but I just was curious if it's a Royale with cheese anywhere because they don't know what a quarter pounder is.
No. So they Burger King do a Royale.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I know I've had one of those long time ago, but with Burger King. But no, McDonald's, we just have like normal hamburger, cheeseburger. They do have quarter pounders here. Really? I'm sure. Wow. I don't eat meat anymore, so
right.
But yeah, and then obviously Big Mac, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it was Burger King because Burger King does the quarter pounder.
Now you see, if they decided to go very literal, they would charge you 25 pence for that.
Yeah. That's true. Actually, and Catherine, I do have to actually you there because I worked for Burger King. The quarter pounder is a McDonald's burger. They had the Whopper, which Vincent Vega didn't go into a Burger King, so he wouldn't know what they called it in Amsterdam.
Right. My bad.
So
I don't eat these burgers because they're terrible.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's that too. There is that too. So anyway, so if you listen to episode part 1 of our look back at the movies of 1994, and I did mention this, but you'll notice that we left a few movies out, and that's because Em sent me this very thoughtful list of movies that she had to talk about. And surprisingly enough, many of these movies have a corresponding episode on her podcast, Full Diorama.
Yeah, I did that on purpose, obviously.
Which I'm sure she's already got the episode number for, so you can go search it on your preferred podcast listener of choice after, of course, you listen to this episode.
Yeah, I actually don't have the numbers. But I didn't think that far ahead, Andy. But I'll figure them out. I'll figure them out as we go.
Man, I figured I was working with professionals here. So anyway, let's.
No.
That was your first mistake.
Yeah, that was my first mistake. My first mistake was trusting y'all. All right, so Em, out of this list, which one of these movies do you want to kick us off with?
Oh, okay. So I thought maybe we could go kind of from the bottom to the top, sort of like a top 10 situation.
That works for me.
Okay, because I don't want to talk about the top one first, because I want to give that its dues at the end. But yeah, so thinking of like the movies of 1994 and thinking of what I really enjoyed watching then, obviously what was big then, maybe what was kind of big sort of in the UK versus the US. And I think sort of the first one that I wanted to kind of set us off with is one that's maybe more a UK pick. Now, I don't know how big this was in the US. I don't know how much it was around kind of in the zeitgeist in 1994 America. But over here, this was literally the biggest movie. Everyone was talking about it. Everyone was going to see it. Like, it was crazy. And that was 4 Weddings and a Funeral.
Dear Lord, forgive me for what I'm about to say in this magnificent place of worship. Bugger. 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 Can I help at all? Huh? No, thanks. Sorry. Vocal exercises.
And so I'm just curious, like, what's your guys' experience of this movie, like in 1994? Did you know about it? Was it such a cultural phenomenon that it was over here? Because we love this movie in the UK.
I pulled up the numbers. This movie went on to gross $52.7 million in the United States and Canada. I actually saw this in the theater.
I have to say, I saw it in the theater too with my then fiance.
I know of it. I just have never seen it.
It's a treat. It actually is a treat because, I mean, to me, it's like the United States' first introduction to Hugh Grant in terms of just how awkwardly charming he was. And
yeah, it was basically like his big major role, the one that kind of gave him the international recognition. You had like Elizabeth Hurley wearing the dress at I think it was the premiere of this one, where she was wearing the safety pins.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was everything around this movie was absolutely huge. Here, anyway.
Well, I will point out this movie was nominated for Best Picture in '94. It only got like 2 Oscar nominations, and one was for screenplay for Richard Curtis, and then for this. This is a movie we go back to a lot, actually. I feel like, well, it's certainly less problematic than Love Actually is.
Yeah.
But it's just.
I was going to say, seeing that it's that time of year, which do you think had the biggest impact? Was it Four Weddings and a Funeral, or was it Love Actually? And I say Love Actually had more of a cultural impact in terms of like British romance comedies that made it big here in the U.S.
It definitely is. It's
Yeah.
Four Weddings and a Funeral on steroids.
That's the thing. You wouldn't have Love Actually without Four Weddings and a Funeral, because that like perfected the formula.
It is, it is the template for everything that followed.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, like Bridget Jones's Diary and Love Actually and all that. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, they all kind of feel like they were all made by the same people, because they kind of were.
Yeah, they were. Yeah.
Yeah, Richard Curtis, who had done a lot with Blackadder. And that's the reason why I went to go see Four Weddings and a Funeral, because I saw that Rowan Atkinson was in it for literally 2 scenes.
But I think we brought that up before, is that the British film industry is rather, compared to like the American film industry, it's kind of insular in the sense that anybody will do anything. They don't have the same hang-ups about working with either certain production companies or TV versus film in the way that American actors do.
I agree. I will say, though, and Em and Joe, feel free to agree or disagree with me with this, that the sole American actor in this entire movie, Andie MacDowell, is horrific in this movie. She is so the line reads. Every time we watch this movie, when she's like, "Is it raining? I didn't notice." It's like I can feel heat coming off of my wife's anger. Every time we watch this movie,
it's not great. But then if you compare this movie with something like Notting Hill and Julia Roberts in Notting Hill, and just how the difference in the two lead female performances, it's like Julia Roberts in Notting Hill knocks it out the park.
Right.
And Andie MacDowell in this movie, she's like very wooden.
You couldn't have Glenn Close dub her over this time too?
Which is not something you'd expect from Andie MacDowell.
No.
I don't know. I mean, her introduction to filmgoers was Greystoke, The Legend of Tarzan, Lord of the Apes, and her Texas accent was so thick they actually had Glenn Close overdub her.
Oh my God, I didn't know. I didn't realize that.
Oh, you didn't know that? Oh, that is like film lore.
Well, not all of us worked at a Suncoast there, Andy.
Well, yes. Well, yeah, sure. And by the way, that means I have to drink. I have a lozenge in my throat right now. I have a lozenge right now, so I can't drink anything. But yeah, I do enjoy this though. I love the fact that it is quite literally 4 weddings and a funeral. There's so much high comedy, and then that's brought down at the funeral. I gotta say, I am blown away by how versatile an actor John Hannah is.
Well,
Because
I've never got
John
anything
Hannah
bad to say about John Hannah, because he's in The Mummy. So
I was going to say, he's in your favorite movie.
yeah, he is.
Yeah.
I love John Hannah. And he's in a great movie called Sliding Doors as well, which came out in like 2002.
Something like that. Ah, there we go. But yeah, I really enjoy John Hannah. I love Simon Callow in this movie. I mean, everybody else in this movie is fantastic.
Yeah, it's basically a who's who of kind of British thespians of the time. And yeah, like we've said earlier, like it really does pave the way for basically the British rom-com industry, like, you know, Bridget Jones and Notting Hill and Going to Love Actually and all of that. But I think it was quite instrumental as well for the British film industry in that this obviously, you know, it was a huge hit here. It really was. But I think it kind of maybe made Hollywood kind of sit up and maybe pay attention to the British film industry a bit more, because I don't think the British film industry's ever really been taken that seriously. It's like, oh, you know, they did the Carry On movies. They do Hammer horror, you know, in the 60s and 70s and stuff. And kind of going into the 90s, we didn't really have a quote. Well, we did have a film industry, but we didn't really have anything that was big like this was.
No.
So I really do think, you know, this was kind of the game changer for Richard Curtis, for Hugh Grant, for, I don't think it's a working title movie, but I think working title may have come about after. And obviously working title have done loads of great British movies kind of going forward, kind of going into like other companies like BBC Films, Film 4, all of that seems like it stemmed from this movie. And there's been some great British movies that have been made over the years that have kind of come from the popularity of this. So I feel like it needed a mention. We needed to talk about it, just because it feels like this was kind of the start. This was the thing that kicked everything off.
And I want to point this out because I've just pulled out the budget and the numbers for this movie. So everybody hold on to your monocles. Make sure they don't pop into your glasses of champagne. On a $4 million budget, this movie worldwide took in $245.7 million with an M dollars. That is insane. That is, I would totally craft my entire film industry around that type of success.
I mean, and then if you want some more, I don't have numbers off the top of my head, but then, so this was 94. I believe it was 96 or 97. The Full Monty came out.
Oh, Jesus, 97. Yeah.
Yeah, which again was an astronomical hit. It was a tiny budget and it made, I don't know how many hundreds of millions of dollars worldwide, but I think the Full Monty for quite some time had kind of the lowest budget comparative to like one of the lowest budgets comparative to the amount that it made. Like it made like some ridiculous times its budget. I don't even know the numbers, but yeah, so the Full Monty then came out, and again that was huge for the British film industry.
And also nominated for Best Picture in the 1997 Oscars.
Yeah.
So they're getting some some recognition.
Exactly. But I feel like I still feel like Four Weddings and a Funeral just was that catalyst, that kind of gave people the confidence in the British film industry, British directors, British actors, maybe not so much British actors. Actors have been British for a long time, but you know what I mean? Just that these British production companies could make stuff that was palatable, not just to British viewers. It wasn't all like, oh, let's have a spot of tea and eat some tiffin, kind of, It was, this is something that everyone else in the world is going to enjoy. Everyone loves a wedding or four. And, funerals are universal. Everyone dies. So
I do have to ask a question, though, and this is more, again, culturally associated with Great Britain here. Is Love Is All Around Us? Is that actually become the national anthem of England? Because I feel like it's in every Richard Curtis movie.
Well, here's the thing. For a long time, and it may still hold the record, I'm not entirely certain whether Whitney Houston, because Whitney Houston's I Will Always Love You held the record for a bit of like of being at number one in the charts for the longest period, but it may be Wet, Wet, Wet's Love Is All Around. As like, I think it was like 16 weeks at number one or something ridiculous, like pretty much half of the year, I think. I don't know.
Yep, it's actually in my notes right now. 15 weeks at number one.
There you go.
Good Lord. All right.
It was everywhere. It's not quite the national anthem yet. Apparently the King will not allow it because it's like treason or something. I mean, Her Late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, she was on it. She loved Wet, Wet, Wet. God rest her soul.
And
oh my God.
Mr. Brightside by the Killers.
Yeah. Queen Elizabeth loved that one as well. She was a big fan of the Killers.
Yeah. Oh man.
That's I kind how a bunch of Mormon boys from Nevada became one of the biggest bands in England.
Honestly, every wedding, every Christmas party, every disco, school disco, that song will always be played. Guarantee. Even funeral, like Four Weddings, funerals, you will always have Mr. Brightside.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Well, I feel like we need to move on to another movie here because I kind of feel bad. So first of all, Mike and Catherine, you definitely need to watch Four Weddings and a Funeral. I have warned you about Andy McDowell already, but everybody else in that movie is positively delightful.
Yeah, I assume that, she had a moment there in the mid 90s, and then later she was like a dancer in the background in what I think Grosse Point Blank or something.
Oh, Andy McDowell?
Yeah. I'm quite sure she was, I don't know if it was Grosse Point Blank or something else, but she's like in the background as like the guy's, the crime boss's girlfriend. And she's barely.
Oh.
Yeah, I
Well, now
mainly only
now
know
we
her
have to
from.
look for that.
I mainly know her from Groundhog Day.
Oh yeah, well, she's good in that one.
Yes.
Yeah, she is. Yeah. And obviously, her daughter, Margaret Qualley, is doing great things in Hollywood at the minute. So I guess we all just need to thank Andy McDowell for giving us Margaret Qualley, because
I guess so.
she's great. I haven't seen The Substance, but I've heard she's excellent in it. So.
Yep,
And
I
she
have
was
to wait for
great
streaming.
in The Nice Guys as well. I loved her in The Nice Guys, Margaret Qualley.
I forgot she was in that. Yeah,
It's
I
only
love
a
that
tiny
movie.
role, but yeah, it's.
Yeah.
I mean, she's obviously great things going on for her career. So Andy McDowell did something right. It wasn't 4 Weddings and a Funeral, but it was something.
All right, awesome. So let's move on to your next movie, Em. What's the next one you want to talk about?
Okay, so this is one that I've done an episode on, and while everyone was discussing 4 Weddings and a Funeral, I just quickly checked on the episode number. So this is episode 233, and this is Street Fighter.
My father saved his village at the cost of his own life. You had him shot as you ran away. A hero at 1,000 paces.
I'm sorry. I don't remember any of it.
You don't remember?
For you, the day bison graced your village was the most important day of your life. But for me, it was Tuesday.
It was a Tuesday.
Oh,
Tuesday.
can we just say, obviously, Raul Julia, what an absolute legend that man was. For this to be his final film, I know a lot of hardcore fans of his are probably like, what it tarnished to his legacy. I'm like, no. He understood the assignment on this movie. He chose the scenery like no other actor has ever chosen scenery before in his life. And he's
basically,
great.
didn't he do it because his kids liked the video game?
Exactly.
It was like his kids talked him into it, and he's like,
and he knew that he didn't have long left. So he was like, I want to do a movie that my kids are going to enjoy. And just, right. I love this movie. I think it's wicked fun. I really do. I've got it on DVD now, so I can watch Street Fighter whenever I want. And the fact that Jean-Claude Van Damme was like coked up the whole time, I'm just like, now I'm watching it and I'm like looking at his eyes like, what have you taken, Jean-Claude? Like,
I mean, to be fair, in the 90s, what movie did he do where he wasn't coked up?
Exactly.
Yeah, but the thing is, the thing that makes this movie so enjoyable is knowing all the lore behind it. And you're like, how the hell did this thing ever get made?
Yeah. And that's the thing I always kind of say on my podcast is that you may not actually like a movie. You may be a big Street Fighter fan. You may have played it a lot at the arcades. I played it a lot. I love the video game. Street Fighter 2 Turbo, one of the greatest games ever made. I loved playing Street Fighter when I was a kid. But first of all, you've got to kind of detach that. This is not a video game. This is a movie. It takes a lot of artistic license. It makes a lot of crap up. Let's be honest, all video game movies do that to an extent. Yep. And when you're basing a movie off of a fighting game, you've got to embellish some bits. You've got to create some additional story arcs and stuff like that. Because you can't not do that. But you've also got to kind of detach yourself from this thing you loved as a kid. This movie is an entity in its own right. And whether you like it or not, it's kind of beside the point. when you find out like the absolute shit show this movie was to get made in the first place, all of the problems they had actually getting it made, it just endears it to me. Like, it makes me love it even more, because I watched this movie when I was a kid and I pretty much loved it straight away anyway, because it had like Chun-Li in it. She was my favorite character. I always played as Chun-Li.
I always played as Chun-Li, and that was Ming-Na Wen.
Yeah.
Yes, I know, and she's amazing. And it's like, it's got a great cast in it. If you take like, Ming-Na Wen, Raul Julia, the legend that is Kylie Minogue.
And Tammy. Yeah, it was really surprising to be like, oh, people I know are in this thing, other than Raul Julia and Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Exactly. And the thing is as well, is for a British person, this may not be a thing that most Americans can relate to, but as a British person, Kylie Minogue she is a pop princess over here. She's Australian, but we've kind of embraced her as our own. We love Kylie. So the fact that Kylie was in this movie was a really big deal for British people.
Hell, she was in a Doctor Who Christmas special.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's like it would be like, I mean, I know it's a really bad example, but it'd be like if you're a big like Ariana Grande fan and you find out she's going to be in Wicked and you're like, I really want to see Wicked because of Ariana Grande. It's kind of like that, but it's very specific to British people. Kylie Minogue was our Ariana Grande in the 90s. So this was a really big deal that she was in this movie.
Kylie Minogue is your Robbie Williams.
Robbie Williams is our Robbie Williams.
Yes.
They did a duet together once upon a time, Kylie and
Of course
Robbie.
they did. Of course
again,
they did.
A very big deal, that song. The fact that these two people kind of came together to do the song. But obviously, Kylie Minogue and Jean-Claude, they had a little bit of a kissy, while they were, maybe a bit more, while they were filming this. Because Jean-Claude Van Damme saw Kylie Minogue and he was like, she's hot. As literally everyone in the whole world thinks she's hot. I am curious though, like, do you guys know did you know who Kylie Minogue was? Like, did you know she was a big pop star?
I did, because in the late 80s, she had that cover of Locomotion.
Yeah.
And then she was romantically attached to Michael Hutchence from NXS for a while.
Yeah, she was.
And then, to, us Americans, she fell off the face of the planet after Street Fighter. And then she had that other song. She had like this huge international hit that came out like back in like the early 2000s. I remember because she was the musical guest on Saturday Night Live the week that Ian McKellen was hosting, and they couldn't get him off the stage. Like, he was just sitting in a corner, just having the time of his life, because now she's a gay icon.
She is a gay icon. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like they couldn't get him off the stage. If you could find the video of it, he's having the time of his life out there while she's just doing her song.
Yeah, was it Can't Get You Out of My Head, the song?
Yes, yes, that's the song. And that was,
which is ironic,
that was a huge international hit.
You couldn't get it out of your head because you couldn't remember what it was. So
it's the La 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 song. It's the La 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 song.
La, 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 la. Yeah, that was everywhere kind of in the early 2000s here. Look, like I say, we love Kylie Minogue. She is a gay icon. She's an icon full stop. So the fact she is in this movie, basically, again, I haven't got numbers in front of me, but I remember this movie being a really big deal because, it's like Jean-Claude Van Damme movie. He was a big deal in the 90s. The missiles for Brussels, all of that sort of stuff. But yeah, to have Kylie Minogue in a Hollywood movie was a big deal. But I love this movie. I really genuinely have so much fondness for it. Even more so now that I've done the episode on it, because it was a shit show. In a nutshell, and it's the fact it's cohesive at all is a miracle, quite frankly.
Mike, have you watched this one?
I have not. No.
I have still not ever seen Street Fighter.
Yeah, you need to
fully
remedy
admit that. Oh, okay. I'll have to find out where it's streaming then.
Again, it's like I said, it's fun to watch knowing the lore behind it.
Yeah.
Right. So awesome. All right. Well, if we have nothing else to say about Street Fighter and the musical career that is Kylie Minogue's, what is your next? What is your next movie?
Actually,
Yeah.
Em mentioned that she didn't have the numbers here. I actually just pulled up the numbers here.
Okay.
I've got all the numbers. Oh, sorry. I thought you meant podcast numbers. Sorry, carry on. Do the numbers.
Yeah, it had a budget of $35 million and box office. I don't know if this was worldwide or just United States, but just shy of $100 million.
Wow.
Internationally?
It was actual hit.
I'm on Wikipedia here. It just says box office. It doesn't say international or domestic. It just says box office. 99.
I'm pulling up worldwide. All right, box.
So I mean that is a success any way you look at it.
Yeah, it made its money back.
Yep.
It's a 35 million. Taking in 99, it barely broke even if you use Hollywood calculations. So it wasn't a hit. It wasn't like a gargantuan hit, but it made its money back.
Yeah.
It's a wash.
We can say it wasn't a bomb at the very.
No, it was not a bomb. No.
If you want to see a bomb, look at the sequel quasi, the sequel to Chun-Li.
Oof.
That was a bomb.
Oof. All right. Well, what is the next movie, Em, on your list?
Okay, so this one again is one of those movies that I adored when I was younger, and I love it even more now because I've done an episode on it. So the episode is 253, and it is The Flintstones.
Wilma, who are you going to believe, me or some busboy?
That busboy is your best friend.
Best friend? Best friend? I lost my best friend the day I became an executive. He's just jealous of my hard-earned success.
Hard-earned? Tell me something, Mr. Vice President. What's a graduated inventory plan? Huh? How about supply and demand? Hey, Fred, what's 2 and 2?
I didn't come here to talk business. I'm out with my wife.
Now, I am a huge fan of practical visual effects, set design, production design. This movie has all of that in spades, as well as, in my opinion, a perfect cast. I feel like growing up watching the Flintstones, obviously the Flintstones I think was more of an American thing, but we did get episodes of the Flintstones here in the UK. I feel like it was more of a, because obviously it was like a kind of early evening show kind of in the US, wasn't it? It was like an adult.
It was a prime time. When it was premiered in the 60s,
one.
It was a prime time. It was a prime time cartoon.
Yeah.
Kind of like The Simpsons is now.
Exactly. It wasn't that over here. It was kind of relegated to like Saturday morning cartoon over here. But I watched quite a lot of episodes of the Flintstones and I always really enjoyed it. It was always more when you had like Pebbles and Bam Bam, you know, like when it kind of became a bit more child orientated as opposed to, oh, here's Fred and Wilma advertising cigarettes, kind of, you know, that. Yeah. But yeah, so it's like, I find this movie fascinating, not just for the ridiculous number of screenwriters that it had, which I believe on the episode, I basically tried to find all 35 uncredited, beg pardon, uncredited screenwriters. I believe I found 33 of them to name them in the show notes because I was like, I want to name these people because this was a feat. But yeah, it had so many uncredited screenwriters. It went through so many revisions. It's not a very child-friendly movie, you know. Since when do kids want to know about embezzlement, you know, and corporate dealings, you know, where kids end up on those, what are they even called? Like, where, what's the guy's name? I can't remember the actor's name. The one who plays the bad guy. And he Kyle MacLachlan, yeah, and he basically kidnaps the children and basically endangers them. But Anyway, the puppet work is excellent. The cast, the main kind of core 4 cast, chef's kiss, no notes. And the set design is absolutely astonishing in this movie. The attention to detail, the fact they wanted to make it a live action cartoon. I genuinely think it's just like a hidden treasure of 1994, this movie, because they would not make this movie that way today. It would be all CGI, it'd be all green screen. It's so tangible and it's so real. Like, Bedrock is so real in this movie. And yeah, the plot is bonkers, like absolutely bananas. Like, let's ignore the plot of this movie because it absolutely is ridiculous. And it's not an episode of the Flintstones, but everything else is an episode of the Flintstones. I'm curious to hear your thoughts, collective team, on this movie, because I love it.
I mean, I personally have not seen it, but I am kind of curious if this was the first collaboration between Jim Henson's Creature Shop and ILM.
I kind of feel like we need to defer to Catherine on that one.
If it is, it'll be in the episode, but I can't remember because it's been a while. It's been a while.
So my take on this, because I paid movie money to see this movie, and I felt like it was, before it came out, it was everywhere. Every entertainment magazine, it had its tie-in with McDonald's, it had all this stuff, and then it had like 2 really good weekends, and then we never heard from it again, and we never thought of it again, and the only time now it gets, now like 30 years, the Flintstones came out 30 years ago. Really?
Well, it also had like 5 like direct-to-DVD sequels.
Oh my God!
It did have a
Viva
lot
Rock
of
Vegas.
Yeah.
I've
not seen any of the sequels because to me this one is so perfect. Why would I want to see a sequel that didn't have these 4 cast members in? Like,
I would only watch the Viva Rock Vegas if Mark Addy was actually doing his Game of Thrones character instead. He's at the quarry today, and they were all there fucking and fighting and.
What is that accent?
That is his that is Mark Addy's accent from Game of Thrones.
All right, Andy. All right,
What's his name? Yes. Hey, cut me some slack. I am usually so much better at this. My voice is shit now.
Andy, don't try to out-British the British woman.
I will not. No, I won't. I won't try. But yeah, anytime I see Mark Addy on stage, like, okay, here we go, fucking and fighting.
Yeah.
So it's just.
He's very northern.
Yeah.
That is way more north than I live. I live in the middle, but he is very northern. Yeah.
Yeah. But I just remember this being like, oh wait, yeah, I watched the Flintstones this year, and it was bizarre because the creative people involved with it, the 31 plus screenwriters, but also the fact this was Amblin, this was Steven Spielberg produced, the Henson Workshop, and I felt like at the end of the day, it just wasn't as remembered as some of the other movies that came out that year. In fact, let's be honest, most of the movies that came out in 1994 that we still talk about today didn't crack the top 10 domestic or worldwide box office.
Yeah, that's
if
true.
You really go back and you look at this, and we talk about the movies now, and we got a couple coming up on here. They're not the movies we talk about.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Couple of exceptions here and there, because last episode we talked about Forrest Gump, and then go back and listen to part 1 if you want to hear my true thoughts on my true thoughts on Forrest Gump.
So to answer the question, this is not the first time that the Muppets that the Creature Shop worked with ILM.
Okay.
Okay.
They did ILM did matte paintings for the Dark Crystal.
Oh.
Okay.
And and it's also talk about other stuff. So yeah, no.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Yeah, I was gonna say, considering the size of ILM, I would have been hard pressed to believe that.
Did you ever see The Empire Strikes Back?
Oh, that little indie movie.
Oh yeah, Yoda. I completely forgot that Yoda was
part of the
Jim Henson.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's back in the early days where it was all like manually worked rods,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
like they had in Dark Crystal. It was the same technology before they got into computers and automation, and it was for some of the puppeteers, it was really difficult to work all the rods to make it work.
Yeah. And Catherine, I just immediately thought as you were answering these questions, like you cleared your desk off just like in one like arm swoop. Just I can't believe they don't know this.
I had to go double check because I was pretty. Like, is this question being asked because ILM didn't get formed until like the 90s? What are we talking about here? So I had to go look it up. I was like, no, somebody's just being a space shot.
Yeah.
Guilty.
Blame the cold medicine. Anybody else have anything they want to talk about with the Flintstones before we move on to M's next pick?
I mean, John Goodman and Rick Moranis are just a massive, amazing duo right there.
Yeah.
I've never seen it, but I know that those two would work phenomenally well together.
I agree. Yep. I think they were always. I always remember like reading like insider magazines on like, oh, they're gonna make a live action Flintstones, and it was always John Goodman and Rick Moranis, and that was after like Jim Belushi fell off the face of the planet, because originally it was going to be John Belushi and Rick Moranis, and then it's like, no one wants to work with Jim Belushi. So
Jim or John?
Well, Jim? My bad if I said John earlier.
Yeah.
And
but,
yeah. IMDb says that Danny DeVito was the first pick to play Barney, and DeVito was like, "I'm too gruff for this. You should do Rick Moranis."
What?
Yeah, DeVito would have had a much more aggressive energy that Barney Rubble never had.
Right, and that's why DeVito turned it down and told them, Rick Moranis is your guy for this one.
Because DeVito knows what he's talking about.
According to IMDb.
Yeah, no, it is true. It is true.
Wow,
once IMDb is right.
That is insane to me.
Can we just briefly mention what the 90s was like for women? Just generally women. And the absolute kind of fat phobia around Rosie O'Donnell. Because I look at her now, she looks like a normal-sized woman. But at the time, I remember people making such a big deal. She's too big to play Betty Rubble. She's huge. She's enormous. She's a gigantic monster. Like, why is she playing Betty Rubble? She's a normal-sized woman. Like, but that was kind of 90s fat phobic culture. That was 90s. You've got to be stick thin all the time. That was what women were constantly told. She's too fat. She's too fat. She's too fat.
Right.
You look at it now, and it's like, what was the big deal? It's like, when we were told Britney Spears was too fat. Britney Spears was absolutely gorgeous, and like everyone was saying, no, she's too fat. She's too fat. What was the media doing in the 90s/2000s? It was so toxic.
Oh, they were making fun of Chelsea Clinton when Clinton was running. Making fun of how ugly she was when she was, 16, 15? She was a teenager going through adolescence, and the media thought she was fair game to talk about her looks.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's disgusting, like absolutely disgusting point of kind of just general history. But that was what the media was so obsessed with weight, with what size people's bodies were, especially women. But I think this is a great example of, you look at this movie now, she's just a normal average size woman. She looks good in this movie, but at the time it was like, no, she's too fat. She's too fat. No, she's not too fat. Like,
the fact that she had this one following up A League of Their Own, where she was phenomenal in that movie as well.
I love it. Yeah. But it's just how different the culture's changed, and how we view women has changed so much now.
Well,
and I'm grateful for that.
Overall, just in terms, you want to talk about that in terms of how the types of roles women were getting back then as well. I've often seen that the list of women nominated for Best Actress for the 1994 Oscars is this weird hodgepodge. It was like there weren't enough good roles for women that they just kind of like pulled 5 names out of a hat. I mean, Jessica Lange, who won for a movie called Blue Sky, which I'm sure none of us have seen. Jodie Foster for Nell. You know, she's already had won 2. Susan Sarandon, Miranda Richardson, Winona Ryder. It's just like this was the best they had to offer, and I'm doing that sarcastically. Like, sure, there were better roles out there, but I
Well, it
don't
wasn't
know.
long before this when Marisa Tomei won Best Supporting Actress for My Cousin Vinny.
Yeah, well, that was the year before this, or 2 years before that, actually. Yeah,
That was pretty recent.
yeah. Well, you want to talk about a future Oscar winner? What is the next movie you're talking about?
Well, I mean, the future Oscar winner is Natalie Portman in, I believe, her first major role in, well, we call it Leon over here. I believe you call it The Professional. Sometimes it's called Leon the Professional. But yeah, it's got multiple different names, but we would call it Leon or Leon.
No. Never take it off until the last minute. It reflects light. They can see you coming from a mile away. And always dress down. Never brighter than the floor. Okay?
Okay.
Let's practice now. It's the best way to learn.
Who should I hit?
Whoever.
And it's interesting, actually. I rewatched that movie very recently because I went on another podcast to talk about it. And it's one of those movies I've not watched in a long time, but I just remember being so kind of enthralled with Natalie Portman's performance, the fact that she was so young, Jean Reno as well. Obviously, his performance in the movie is great as well. But I think although I think the movie is excellent, I really do. I think it's somewhat tainted now that we know what we know about the director. What's kind of come out about him. The fact that Natalie Portman is so young, the fact that she's kind of very overtly sexualized in the movie. It's very uncomfortable to watch now, I think. It doesn't take away from, I think the movie is fantastic. I think it's genuinely one of the best movies of the year, kind of just from the point of view of quote unquote proper filmmaking. That's not Street Fighter or the Flintstones level of filmmaking. It is a fantastic thriller. It's like a fantastic kind of spy movie in a way as well. It's got some good action in it, and Jean Reno is fantastic. And you've got kind of the kind of relationship that his character and Natalie Portman's character have, the kind of more like a father-daughter dynamic, the fact they take care of each other. But yeah, the things that have since come out, they add this layer of it's like a new watching it with a new lens, with new eyes, like that. That relationship has a very, very kind of creepy quality to it that maybe wasn't there before.
Yeah, it definitely colors.
The actors are playing it that way, really, but yeah.
It was one of those movies that I really enjoyed when it first came out, and just because at the time it was so different from like any sort of like spy action thriller movie that had come out previously. But in the intervening years, as more and more has come out about it, it's like, oh, I can't even revisit it because it's just like it just bothers me now.
Right. Yeah. Totally understandable too, especially. It's crazy too because this movie really launched a lot. I mean, obviously Natalie Portman, but it also, I mean, Jean Reno. It launched his American career. It launched. I mean, realistically, this is the first movie that we think of for Gary Oldman.
Yeah.
Kind of being his first big coming out movie. I mean, he had done stuff prior. He was Sid Vicious and Sid Nancy, for God's sakes. What's that?
He did Amadeus. What are you talking about?
No, it wasn't Amadeus. He was Beethoven in Immortal Beloved, which I believe came out the same year, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh.
Yeah. It's
Who's then?
I'm looking. Immortal Beloved, 1994.
It was Dracula.
But I mean,
I'm stupid.
oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
it's
was
okay.
in 90...
It's true, I'm stupid.
92. Yeah, we're all
92,
stupid here. Yeah, but I mean did Dracula or Immortal Beloved have a meme that everyone can use where it's just like everyone?
No.
No.
When was Fifth Element?
Fifth Element was 97.
97, yeah.
Okay. All right,
Yeah.
we got
Also a Luc Besson movie. You know what the funny thing is, when you were talking about Leon the Professional, I immediately was like, they did a remake of this, right, with Bridget Fonda, not completely forgetting that it was La Femme Nikita that had the Bridget Fonda remake, Point of No Return. Also Luc Besson, so I'm forgiven. It's been an age since I've seen this one.
They did around the idea of a sequel with Natalie Portman's character as the cleaner, and eventually that script became Columbiana with Zoe Saldana.
Really? Interesting.
Did not know that.
I didn't know that either. That's very interesting. Well, I guess I'm going to have to watch Columbiana at some point then.
Yeah, I've heard Columbiana's quite good. It's been on my to-watch list for a long time. I've just never got around to watching it. But I might definitely give it a go now that little nugget of information is out there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just that's the thing. I really like this movie. I don't like Luc Besson, but I really I think this movie is definitely one of his best.
Yep.
And I genuinely think Natalie Portman is outstanding in it. But for such a young age to convey the emotions that she conveys, you can tell, this is a girl that's going to go far, and she does. Like you say, future Oscar winner Natalie Portman. But yeah, Luc Besson is all kinds of problematic.
Right.
And
But it's interesting though. I just feel like between this and La Femme Nikita, it's like these are the movies that he made before he started to like insist upon himself with things. Forgive me, like The Fifth Element and like The Messenger and all these other movies that are just like, can you stop doing this? Can you please stop doing this? I mean, I like this because it's a very grounded movie. Mike, have you seen this one?
I have not, no.
Oh, okay. There's all these movies we have to remedy here. You need to watch these.
Yeah, out of this list, I've seen a few of most of the top 5.
Okay. All right. And we are 4 in. So maybe we just knock the 5th one out. So then maybe Mike can. I feel bad, Mike. It's. All right. Well, do you mind if I introduce this one, Em? Because we got to talk about Interview with the Vampire, the Vampire Chronicles.
So you want me to tell you the story of my life?
Like I said, that's what I do. I interview people. I'm a collector of lives. FM radio, KFRC.
You'd have to have a lot of tape for my story.
Oh, that's no problem. I got a bag full of tape right here.
You followed me here, didn't you?
Yeah, I suppose I did. You seem very interesting. This is where you live?
No, it's just a room.
Well, what do you say we get started? So, what do you do?
I'm a vampire.
That's something I haven't heard before. You mean this literally, I take it?
Absolutely. I was waiting for you in that alleyway.
watching you, watching me. And then you began to speak.
What a lucky break for me.
Perhaps lucky for both of us.
You said you were waiting for me. What were you gonna do? Kill me, drink my blood, all that stuff?
Yes. But you needn't be concerned with that now.
And you want to talk about a movie that had an absolute shit show of a production history. Now, you have not done this movie, correct?
I have not.
It's
It's on my list. It's on my list.
Okay. Oh my God. So first of all, I mean, this is psychotic levels of casting because Anne Rice wanted, I believe she wanted, at the time they finally greenlit the movie, Daniel Day-Lewis to play Lestat. And the studio went with Tom Cruise. And she went so cuckoo banana bonkers that she went to the studio, says, that is not what Lestat looks like. She tore her shirt open where she has a tattoo of Lestat on her breast and said, this is what Lestat looks like. And it was supposed to look like Daniel Day-Lewis.
Back originally, she wanted it to be Sting, and that wasn't going to work.
No, that wasn't going to work. I mean, as much as I love Sting, I mean, The Bride, for the love of God. Yeah, it's just weird. And then anytime they were interviewing her about Lestat, she was talking about him like he was a real person, and that she had known him in a carnal sense, if you will.
Technically, she birthed him because it was like her creation.
Which makes it.
But yeah, I don't want to speak ill about the dead, but my God,
makes it easier.
It does, yeah, it does.
Yeah. I will say though, this movie is a lot better than I expected it to be when I saw it.
Yeah, I think this movie is great. I've seen it quite a few times actually, and it's only kind of on recent watches that I've kind of, maybe because I watched it when it was one of those that I wasn't allowed to watch when I was younger. So it's like I really wanted to watch it because I was told I couldn't watch it because it was scary. And it's only kind of on recent watches that I've picked up on more of like the gay subtext between Lestat and
Louis.
I was thinking Brad Pitt, but that's just the name of the actor.
It's just Lestat and Brad Pitt.
Lestat and Brad Pitt,
the actor.
Yeah, he looked at Anne Rice's breast and he was like, "That's the guy." No, so yeah, Lestat and Louis, and obviously they're kind of, well, more like Louis's kind of father-daughter weird relationship with Kirsten Dunst's Claudia, which is quite fascinating as well. This idea that you have this immortal child and she's going to be a child forever, and you know she's like this body of a child with like the mind of a woman, and it's very creepy and very weird, but it's also kind of an interesting angle to take with that character. And I mean, I don't, like I said, I've not done an episode on it, so I don't know too much about it. I know that there is a series of books. I'm probably guessing that there's a couple of different books, kind of different storylines, maybe converging into like one film. I'm not entirely certain on that. I'm guessing. Because it kind of goes from them in the house to kind of the that kind of Parisian. Is it Parisian? I assume it's Paris.
Parisian, yeah.
Yeah, because they're in like New Orleans, aren't they? And then they travel over to Europe, and then they've got this whole kind of courtesan of vampires led by Antonio Banderas and all of that kind of stuff. So I just assumed it was like a couple of novels in one, maybe.
Really?
Oh, you would think.
Okay.
The text of Interview with a Vampire, the story that gets told there, and like they might draw a little bit of information from the Vampire Lestat or something, but no, it's pretty much it.
It's all one book.
I've not read the books, so I don't know. This is the only thing that I know about this world. But it's a fascinating world, and I was completely drawn in by Tom Cruise. Now, Tom Cruise is not an actor that I'm a big fan of, just generally. I like it when he plays against type. I like it when he plays movies, when he does roles like Edge of Tomorrow, when he does roles like Tropic Thunder, and when he does roles like this, because in every other movie, in every Mission Impossible movie, in every action movie, he's Tom Cruise. But in this, he's Lestat to me. Like, he's not Tom Cruise. I feel like he fully immerses himself in this role, and I feel like he's genuinely good in this role. I'm curious to hear your collective views, because I didn't read the books. This is all I know about this character, but I think he's genuinely good.
I'm going to assume that only Catherine and I have read the book, at least this one.
Yeah, that sounds like
okay. Yeah,
that's a fair assumption.
What's that?
I've seen the movie once, but I've never read the books.
Okay. I will say it is a welcome break to not have Tom Cruise be in the movie for about 35 minutes. There's a whole block where he's just not there. Overall, I think this movie is gorgeous to look at. It's one of Elliot Goldenthal's better scores. I'm not a huge fan of Elliot Goldenthal, but I do enjoy this score. And I mean, Joe, you're a fan of What We Do in the Shadows, so we have that whole thing with Guillermo wanting to be a vampire because he found a Latino vampire in Antonio Banderas. I really enjoy this one. I don't know. What about you guys? What do you think?
I never understood. I read it. I had friends that read it. You had friends that read it. But yeah, it was big around our high school for a while. But I don't know. I saw it and I don't know why. I read the book and I don't understand why everybody's so obsessed with Lestat. I don't get it.
It's
the movie was time, but yeah, I remember they were interviewing young Kirsten Dunst doing the movie, and they were like, "What was it like kissing Brad Pitt?" Everyone wants to know, and she was like, "It was kind of gross."
And that was years before everyone found out that Brad Pitt is the smelliest actor in Hollywood.
Yeah, he doesn't shower, does he?
No, dude does not like to shower at all.
I believe in showering.
Yeah, well, apparently he also likes to hit his wife on planes. So
yeah,
another slightly problematic person there, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never seen this one, but I kind of blame this one and one we're going to be talking about a little bit later for the resurgence of Hot Topic stores.
Yeah.
Yep. You wouldn't be wrong. You wouldn't be wrong.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we got to move on to our next movie then, Em.
Okay. So this was one that I actually saw quite recently for the very first time. And it was one of those, I can't believe I've not seen this sooner because I really loved it. And again, we love talking about problematic people. So let's just bring up Ed Wood.
Oh my God.
Mr. Agosi, I know you're very busy, but can I have your autograph?
Certainly.
You know which movie of yours I love, Mr. Lugosi? The Invisible Ray. You were great as Karloff's sidekick.
Karloff? Sidekick?
Fuck you! Karloff does not deserve to smell my shit! That limey cocksucker can rot in hell for all I care!
What happened?
How dare that asshole bring up Karloff? You think it takes talent to play Frankenstein? It's all makeup and grunting.
Bella, I agree 100%. Now, Dracula, that's a role that requires talent.
Of course. Dracula requires presence. It's all in the eyes and the voice and the head.
That's right. That's right. You seem a little agitated. You want to go outside and get some air?
Bullshit. I'm ready now. Roll the camera.
And I knew about Plan 9 from Outer Space. I knew about it because of like just the legend that it was. But to me, kind of have a movie about the making of a movie was I just loved it so much. And I thought Johnny Depp was actually outstanding in it. And I was like, what is this? This is amazing. Honestly, it blew me away. I thought it was genuinely lovely and beautifully made. And I was a little bit like, where has this movie been? Like, I know it's been there, but it felt like, I mean, it feels like such a cult classic. It feels like a movie for movie lovers in a way, because it talks about, you know, how difficult it is to get these movies made. It's a bit like Bowfinger in so many ways, you know, just the passion and the love that has to go into this. And, you know, and obviously it is kind of played for laughs a little bit in the movie, but it's just such a beautiful, tragic, lovely story. And it's really kind of buoyed for me by Johnny Depp and how great he is in this movie. Like, I genuinely believe one of the greatest roles he's ever played. Feel free to disagree, but
I will
I
not
loved it.
disagree with you at all. This, besides Pulp Fiction, this is my favorite movie released in 1994. I love this movie.
Yeah, I kind of like in same boat as you. I saw it maybe in the last few years or so, and I just came away thinking, why had I not seen this one before? Because it is freaking amazing.
Yeah.
Just the relationship between Ed Wood and Bela Lugosi, played by the incomparable Martin Balsam. No.
Martin Landau.
Martin Landau. Yeah.
Yeah.
Martin Balsam was in Mitchell.
He earned that best supporting actor award.
Yeah.
Because their relationship and friendship was heartbreakingly beautiful.
Yeah. Honestly, like, and genuinely some of the best acting that I think I've certainly ever seen Johnny Depp do. Yeah. Martin Landau, I mean, you know, I think the guy's probably legendary status. But again, it's like Bela Lugosi. I knew the name Bela Lugosi. And I know they probably took some artistic license maybe in this movie. But I don't know, I just felt like this is an actor that I want to know more about based on the performance in this movie. Like, I don't know, it just felt so earnest and so heartfelt. Like you say, such a beautiful friendship. And yeah, I know that there must be, and I'm going to do an episode on it eventually, but I know there must be some embellishment, that it can't be 100% accurate, because these movies never are 100% accurate. But I just thought it was so beautiful. It really surprised me, I think. I didn't expect it to be as good as it was, so I was kind of really blown away by it, to be honest.
Yeah, actually, strangely enough, a lot of this stuff they did truncate some stuff for time, and like Kathy, his wife's devotion to him was spot on. Because I read his biography after the movie came out, because of course there was going to be a biography that came out after the movie, and she was dedicated. She was very dedicated to him, and he was a chronic alcoholic. He was obsessive. I mean, essentially ended his career as doing like low budget, you know, softcore porno movies. But, you know, because he just had to keep working, he had to keep being he had to keep making movies. I think the casting in this movie is some of the best. I mean, everybody just really fits their roles. Especially if you've seen the real movies, like Jeffrey Jones. We just can't stay away from problematic people, can we? Jeffrey Jones as Criswell he's spot on.
one of the people that for me kind of stole the show a little bit was Bill Murray.
Oh my God, yes.
When he had to be baptized, I was dying laughing.
Yes, I love that scene. And when he does, you do the whole thing too. Do you reject Satan and all his ill? And he's just like, sure. I always forget he's in it because it doesn't feel like Bill Murray.
Yeah.
In it. This is a movie I feel like too many people haven't seen. Joe, Catherine, you've been very silent about this, so I don't know. Have you seen Ed Wood?
I watched it.
Yes, but not in a very, very long time.
Yeah, Bunny Breckenridge was the character's name.
I think I saw it shortly after it came out. Maybe I saw it. Maybe I rented it or something. But yeah, I haven't seen it since.
Yeah.
But it's something I remember well, and I do know that a lot of it was pretty. I'd read some about the movie, about Plan 9 from Outer Space, and about Ed Wood, and I think it was, they didn't exaggerate too much, his relationships with Bela Lugosi and so on.
Yeah. But yeah, I really feel like this is a movie that got unfairly maligned. I mean, this was at a point where, I went because it was a Tim Burton movie. And it was because that's, I used to do things like that. And it blew me away that he could make it felt, pardon me for saying this, felt like a real movie.
I understand that because it doesn't feel like a Tim Burton movie. You know, if you say I'm going to watch a Tim Burton movie, you're like, oh, okay, Edward Scissorhands, Beetlejuice, they're Tim Burton movies. But apart from the Johnny Depp situation.
This Tim Burton movie starred Johnny Depp and Helena Bonham Carter. Yeah. Oh, come on!
It doesn't. I think you're right. It doesn't feel like a Tim Burton movie. That's not a slight at Tim Burton movies because I love Beetlejuice. And I love Edward Scissorhands, and I love Batman Returns, and I love Batman and all of that sort of stuff. But there's something really special about this movie that it's a Tim Burton movie, but it feels like a genuine, heartfelt kind of love letter to movie making and to cinema and to tenacity, and to living your dream no matter what, and it's such a beautiful movie, and I wish more people knew about it. I think it might be on Disney Plus, maybe.
In the UK it would be on Disney Plus. I think the last time I watched this I found it on YouTube, like the whole movie on YouTube. You know what else makes this movie not feel so much like a Tim Burton movie is the fact that Danny Elfman didn't do the music for it. It's one of the few Tim Burton movies that Danny Elfman didn't do music for. It's Howard Shore.
Wow.
The Lord of the Rings guy. And the entire score is almost all theremin, which I love.
I mean, that in itself is very Ed Wood.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that is just it. That's 50 sci-fi right there.
Yeah.
But I recommend this to everybody.
Yeah, what's kind of weird about it is like Tim Burton is almost, if Ed Wood had actual movie making talent, he kind of would have been like an early Tim Burton in a sense, because Tim Burton kind of has that kind of Ed Wood feel, but with the talent behind it. So it's kind of like. I don't think anyone else could have made a movie about Ed Wood other than Tim Burton, really.
No, not at all. Well then,
not in understanding as well as Tim Burton does.
Yeah, and he always hires his friends and everything. It's interesting too because I joked about Helena Bonham Carter earlier. His girlfriend prior to her, Lisa Marie, is in this one.
Yeah,
she plays Vampira. By the way, excellent likeness. I thought she did a great job. George the Animal Steel as Tor Johnson.
That was spot on casting right there.
What perfect casting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to go back and watch that one. All right. Well, and what's up next? And I know Mike's going to have a lot to talk about this one. I don't know, Joe, Catherine, what your thoughts are, but I know this is one of Mike's favorite movies. So go ahead, Em.
I mean, I think this is a lot of people's favorite movie because I believe it's still #1 on the IMDb top 250. The highest ranked movie of all time, according to IMDb. I believe I've not looked recently, but it was up there for a long time. If it's not #1, it was for a long time. And again, it's one of those movies you mentioned earlier, Andy. This is kind of one of the big movies from this year that maybe wasn't as big, and yet people still talk about it all the time. I remember years and years ago, I hadn't seen this movie. And a friend of mine was like, "You've not seen it?" And I was like, "No." And they're like, "You've got to see it. You've got to see this movie. It's like the one movie you have to see." And that movie is The Shawshank Redemption. And I had not seen it before. And so it was like everyone at work was like, "You've got to see this movie. It's the greatest movie. You've got to watch it." And so I was basically peer pressured into watching this movie because I had never seen it before. And of course I loved it. And I mean, Mike, go for it. If this is your favorite movie, you go for it on The Shawshank Redemption.
Mr. Hadley, do you trust your wife?
Oh, that's funny. You're gonna look funnier sucking my dick with no teeth.
What I mean is, do you think she'd go behind your back, try to hamstring you?
That's it. Step aside, Mert. This fucker's having himself an accident.
You don't push him off the roof. Because if you do trust her, there's no reason you can't keep that $35,000.
What did you say?
35,000.
35,000?
All of it.
All of it?
Every penny.
You better start making sense.
If you want to keep all that money, give it to your wife. The IRS allows a one-time only gift to your spouse for up to $60,000.
Bullshit. Tax-free?
Tax-free. IRS can't touch 1 cent.
You're that smart banker what killed his wife, aren't you? Why should I believe a smart banker like you? So I can end up in here with you?
It's perfectly legal. Go ask the IRS. They'll say the same thing. Actually, I feel stupid telling you this. I'm sure you would have investigated the matter yourself.
Yeah, fucking A. I don't need no smart wife-killing banker to tell me where the bear's sitting the buckwheat.
Of course not. But you do need someone to set up the tax-free gift for you. And that'll cost you. A lawyer, for example.
Bunch of ball-washing bastards.
Right. I suppose I could set it up for you. That would save you some money. You get the forms, I'll prepare them for you. Nearly free of charge. I'd only ask 3 beers apiece for each of my co-workers.
Co-workers, get him. That's rich, ain't it?
I think a man working outdoors feels more like a man if you can have a bottle of suds. It's only my opinion.
I don't think it's my favorite movie of this year, but it is up there. And yeah, I definitely did not see it at this time. I mean, especially since it's based on a Stephen King novella, and so for the longest time I was not a Stephen King fan. I'm still not the biggest Stephen King fan, but I've heard like this did not feel like a Stephen King movie. So eventually I did get around to watching it, probably when I was in college, and I still remember the first time I watched it. I did not know anything about it. I didn't know how it ended. So, you know, when they open up all the cells and Andy does not come out at the end, I was thinking, oh shit, did he hang himself? And so the entire third act, I was just jaw dropped in amazement. I did not know anything going into this movie, and I think I was such an amazing experience because of that. But yeah, I mean the friendship between Andy and Red, and Morgan Freeman's narration is just it's Morgan Freeman. You cannot go wrong. But yeah, their relationship, how it builds and how it climaxes in the very last shot, it's a genuinely emotional moment. And yeah, it's such an amazing movie. I'm actually kind of glad I didn't see it at the first when it first came out, though, because Oddly enough, I think seeing this with a crowd might not have been this movie really kind of feels more of a personal story almost. So kind of seeing it on its own, I think might hit a little bit differently than seeing it with a crowd. And it's one of the few cases where I think that it actually would be better on its own. But I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, Mike, I was just going to say that seeing it with the crowd would not have been an issue if you gone to see this in the theater in 1994.
Oh, that is true. That is true.
This movie, and I heard this brought up. Joe and Catherine, Worst of All Possible Worlds, talked about Shawshank Redemption a little bit when they're talking about It's a Wonderful Life. That it was primarily revived, like the whole legacy of the movie was revived because TNT got it early and was able to just play it, just like TBS would do Christmas Story at a 24-hour loop. They would just keep playing and playing and playing this movie, and that's where it got its notoriety. Because I remember, get your drinks ready because I'm going to talk about working in a video store. People weren't renting it. People weren't buying it. It was something that had to kind of happen through television broadcast, and people were watching it that way. So, to Mike's point, Mike, I love that you brought up that it's a very personal, intimate story, and it's not the kind of thing that you go sit in a large crowd with or have, your big buttery popcorn or some, candy or something like that. You just kind of sit and you watch it and you absorb what's going on with it.
Yeah, no, I mean.
That said, I've watched it twice. I don't feel like I need to watch it again.
No, I mean, I watched it a couple of times, and yeah, it's one of those things. It was received pretty well critically, but it was not a hit by any stretch of the imagination.
No. It was actually shocking it got nominated for Best Picture. It really was.
Right, exactly. And you're right. It is one of those things, like, you kind of, there's a very kind of intimate feel to the movie that you can't really watch it in the crowd. Because I saw it twice. I saw it the first time I saw it in the movie theater, and then the second time I caught it on TNT. And it had more of an impact on me watching it on TNT than it did in the movie theater, which is kind of weird.
This is the very definition of a dad film, also. Did anybody get that vibe? Do you get that vibe? It's a dad movie?
I do, in a way. I feel like it's not the sort of movie that a couple of teenagers are going to go to the cinema and watch, or they're not going to sit at home and watch it on TV. It is going to be the sort of movie that your dad will sit and watch. And maybe that explains the incredibly high IMDb rating, because not that I'm saying it's a terrible movie, because I'm not. It's a great movie. But I've always questioned, well, what makes this the number one movie on IMDb? And I think maybe your explanation, Andy, or your theory of it being a quote unquote dad movie, maybe that is the reason. Maybe it is because more men use IMDb, therefore more men have voted for this movie because they watched it in the 90s, or their dad watched it and then they watched it, and then they've grown up watching it, and so they consistently rate it really high. Because if you look at like the other movies that are around that area, you've got like The Godfather, which again is to me a very dad movie. Not that my dad would watch that movie. I think he's seen it, but it's not really his kind of thing. But you see what I mean? I feel like that is the explanation. You're never going to see Barbie on the top of the IMDb 250,
I mean, looking at this list, I'm in the top 250 right now. Shawshank Redemption, The Godfather, The Dark Knight, Godfather Part 2, 12 Angry Men, The Return of the King, Schindler's List, Pulp Fiction, Fellowship of the Ring, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. That's the top 10, followed by Forrest Gump, Two Towers, Fight Club, Inception. Yeah, these are all like guy movies. But it's also, I feel like Shawshank Redemption was like the last big swing at the triumph of the human spirit style movies before people really started getting tired of hearing the term a triumph of the human spirit.
Yeah, I think, it is a quote unquote dad movie, but I think it's also a very emotional movie as well. And it's one of those things that it doesn't rely on, oh, we're gonna break out of this prison and we're gonna, gun down a load of guards while we go. It's not like a Tom Cruise action movie. It's a very subtle kind of emotionally charged drama. And I think, it does maybe kind of lean more towards male viewers, perhaps. I mean, I certainly wouldn't. I mean, I haven't really done this list in any particular order, apart from, the number one on the list, I absolutely adore. And number two, I genuinely think is one of the greatest animated movies ever made. Hint, hint. But The Shawshank Redemption is one of those movies that I enjoyed very much when I watched it. I wouldn't say, it's not like The Mummy. I wouldn't go, oh yeah, I'll watch it on repeat. The Shawshank Redemption is not that movie. It's not that movie that I want to watch again and again and again. But it is that movie that I absolutely, wholeheartedly, 100% respect and admire for its craftsmanship, for its heart, for its performances, for its story. Whereas everything else, a lot of the other stuff on this list that I've given to you guys, is very kind of visual or, maybe a little bit silly, a little bit daft. The Shawshank Redemption is none of those things. It's a very serious movie. And I just think it speaks to people. Like you say, it is about the tenacity of the human spirit, or however you worded it. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. And the idea of ultimately being free. I think a lot of people can just relate to feeling trapped. If you might not be in prison, and hopefully you're not in prison, but I think anyone can relate to feeling trapped and, wanting to get away from something or wanting to get out of something. And I think it does speak to you on like a very human level. But it's not the sort of movie that I would go, I want to watch it on repeat, like every week, every month, every year. It's just not that sort of movie. But that doesn't mean I'm taking anything away from it. I think it's an absolute work of art, but it's not a movie that I feel like you could watch on repeat. It's it drains me emotionally to watch it, because I get, very emotional watching it. I feel like it drains you to watch this movie in a way. I don't know if anyone else feels like that, but I get very emotional watching it.
I get that because we talked about this last year. We talked about Schindler's List. It's the same thing. It's just, okay, well, I watched it, and now I have to go contemplate.
And before we move off of the Shawshank Redemption, though, may I use this moment to make a obligatory Keanu reference?
Oh,
you may.
William Sadler played Haywood, one of Andy's friends in prison, and he also played the Grim Reaper in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
He did. You're absolutely right.
Nice.
Bill and Ted Face the Music.
Way to go.
Oh yes, he did.
I mean, It's not the last time we're going to be talking about Keanu Reeves, so
nope.
Nope. It's almost like we left a movie off of the last episode just so you could talk about it.
Yay!
All right. Well, hey, I think we need to move off of this. Let's cheer up a little bit and head into hot topics so we can talk about The Crow.
Jesus Christ. Stop me if you heard this one. Jesus Christ walks into a hotel. Ow. He hands the innkeeper 3 nails and he asks, "Don't you ever fucking die? You put me up for the night?" Is that hurt?
Yeah, let's talk about that fun movie with a really fun story.
Oh, with the fun story, the backstory that, makes
Yeah.
everybody just laugh and sing.
Oh,
It was the
it's
most
so
harmonious of productions ever.
It
Oh
really
my
was. Everyone was
God.
happy, smiling. No one died. Yeah, great.
This
yeah.
movie.
Can we just talk about Brandon Lee? Because I genuinely feel like in a different universe, if we're in the multiverse, in a different universe, Brandon Lee is a huge Hollywood star. I really genuinely feel like Brandon Lee was going to be huge. He was going to be the Tom Cruise, the Brad Pitt, because that man had everything. He was good looking. He was charismatic. He could act. He could fight. His dad was Bruce motherfucking Lee. And this movie is so beautiful and so tragic in equal measure for me. I think the movie is wonderful. Like, I was probably fully in my goth stage when I watched this movie for the first time. As we all have a goth stage, right? It's not just me.
Mike, you had one, right? It goes without saying, but Mike, Joe, you guys had goth stages, right?
I was never cool enough to have a goth stage.
Ah!
Goths aren't cool. You just went country.
That's true.
And I actually
Joe, how
still
about
have
you?
my cowboy hat too.
Never gone goth.
Perfect.
You'll never find a picture of me in black or with eyeliner and any sort.
No, definitely, absolutely not.
The weird thing about this movie is stylistically, it's amazing. The soundtrack, you cannot touch the soundtrack. And we talked about that earlier in the year on our music episode, that 94 might have the best assortment of movie soundtracks out there. My God, the soundtrack still holds up.
Yeah, it's really good. I think the movie really holds up as well. If you think of how far we've come with digital facial replacement.
Yeah.
The fact that they did it in this movie, that they had obviously Chad Stahelski, who also works with Keanu Reeves many times. But like he was the stand-in. And he had his, because obviously Brandon Lee tragically died before they finished the movie, and so they had to finish it somehow. They got the blessing of his family to finish it, and obviously they had to use very newfangled digital technology at the time to get this movie made, and it still stands up. It's like I say, it's beautiful, it's tragic. It literally hinges on Brandon Lee's performance, and I think he absolutely has it in the bag. And he's so gorgeous. Like, I remember watching this movie for the first time and having the biggest crush on him. And even now, I watch this movie and I'm just like, in another world, in another universe, there is no obligatory Keanu reference. It might be an obligatory Brandon Lee reference, because I really, really fancied Brandon Lee, as did probably everyone else in the world. But he has such a promising career, and for it to end on this movie, and it's a shame really, because I feel like this movie is tarnished a little bit from that. It was elevated because of that, but it's also tarnished because of that. Did any of you see the recent remake with one of the Skarsgård brothers?
No, I haven't. And I was just going to talk about the idea of a remake, but Catherine, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I haven't seen it, the new one, and the trailer didn't speak to me at all.
Yeah, when the preview audiences says this is unwatchable, there are certain movies that should never be touched. This is one of them, especially back when they were like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna have Bradley Cooper play." I'm like, "Oh, are you insane? What is happening?"
For like they've been talking about remaking that one for like 20 years.
Well, after they tried doing the sequels, has anybody seen City of Angels?
I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna reboot it, and then it vanish, nothing. So I still don't believe that they actually did reboot it this year. I don't think that movie actually exists.
No, it's
What was it
coming
like
up
a
on
Mandela effect? We all
exactly
believed that it was rebooted, but it actually wasn't rebooted, and we're all just like remembering something else.
That's exactly it.
Now, did anybody actually see the sequel, City of Angels, with Vincent Perez?
Nope.
Awful.
No, but why would you? But why would you when you've got this perfect movie with Brandon Lee right there? Like, why would you watch a sequel?
Right. Yeah, we talk all. I mean, obviously, we're going to talk about Brandon Lee, but the supporting cast of this is really solid. Michael Wincott is just.
So good.
He's amazing in it. Ernie Hudson is really fun in this.
Yeah.
What's his name? The guy he was in The Warriors. I think this was like the first movie I saw him in. Is it David Patrick Kelly? Now we're gonna look it up. But David Patrick Kelly is really good in this movie, and I didn't realize he's the Warriors Come Out and Play guy. There we go. Found it. And it's just his voice. He's got that very, very distinctive voice. He's always sounded like he's 60 years old. David Patrick Kelly. Yep, he was in The Warriors. But yeah, I enjoy this movie. I watched it last year. I really enjoyed it. But I don't know. Catherine, Joe, Mike, thoughts? Crow.
Yeah, I never watched it, so I really don't have anything to say about it.
You've never seen The Crow?
I
mean, Mike, I can understand. Joe, I'm shocked you haven't seen The Crow.
I don't. The comic book never really did anything for me, so it's just like I couldn't get into it.
Oh, okay. So I don't even think you need to. This is definitely not a required reading type of movie.
No, I think it deviates enough from the source material, but also knowing what you know about what happened on set, I think it's worth a watch just based on that, like I say, it is notorious for the movie, that Brandon Lee died while he was making it, and that's kind of unfortunate, but also, like I say, it elevates it a little bit. It kind of makes it a bit untouchable, because that poor recent reboot that they did, it had no hope. It had no hope of living up to this movie, because this movie has been elevated because Brandon Lee is so good in it that everyone who watches this movie, I think, can see the talent that Brandon Lee had. And obviously the fact that he's absolutely gorgeous as well. I keep banging on about it because it's true.
That's okay.
And he's wearing like black leather, and it's just, oh my God.
A little bit of gallows humor, though. How much you want to make a bet that somebody on the set of the remake of The Crow was like, is there any way we can kill Bill Skarsgård? And I'll just imagine
would hunt them down.
Now all I'm thinking of now is like all these like things where he like takes a step, and then as he's taking that step, like a lighting rig just falls behind him. Like, hey, that's weird.
They'll get you next time, Bill Skarsgård. Next time.
Yes. Next time. Yikes.
No, they need him for the It prequel.
Oh, is that really happening?
I believe so. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay.
Welcome to Derry. I think Welcome to Derry's coming out next year, I think.
Oh, well, I'll be avoiding that like I've avoided everything else.
There is not enough liquor in my house right now to deal with that. So,
you got to feel bad for Bill Skarsgård. First, he has to step into Brandon Lee's shoes, and then he also has to step into Tim Curry's shoes.
Yeah, that's a great point. No one beats Tim Curry ever.
Right.
So good luck when they remake the Rocky Horror Picture Show at some point in the future, because that's going to be an interesting piece of casting to replace Tim Curry in that. I don't even think. I mean, would they ever remake that movie? Maybe not. It'd probably be very different nowadays, but it is iconic. So.
Yeah, I don't think the original made any money, so I don't see why they would remake it.
Yeah. But it's a cult icon now.
Yeah.
I mean, they do midnight showings of it. You know,
Yeah.
they have a stage show. People dress up like they do when they go and see showings of The Room, where they take their like cutlery and stuff. It's huge. Like the Rocky Horror is absolutely huge. But whether it's big enough to make a remake, who knows? But yeah, good luck to anyone who ever tries to step into Tim Curry's shoes. Because that's not easy.
Yeah.
Just wanted to add, The Crow is episode 148 of Verbal Diorama, just by the way. And it's basically just 50 minutes of me thirsting over Brandon Lee.
Nothing wrong with that.
It makes sense. That makes all the sense in the world. Also, never mind. All right, well, we got 2 more movies to talk about here, and Em, take it away.
So the penultimate movie on this list is, I hinted at it, basically one of the greatest animated movies ever made, one of the greatest things that Disney have ever made. So much so, they decided to do a quote-unquote live-action remake in 2019, which was absolutely dire. So dire, in fact, that I watched it for 20 minutes before turning it off in disgust. Because I thought it was the absolute worst thing I had ever seen. It was soulless. It was basically everything bad about Disney live-action remakes. Because the original is perfect, and that is The Lion King.
Simba, I'm very disappointed in you.
I know.
You could have been killed. You deliberately disobeyed me. And what's worse, you put Nala in danger.
I was just trying to be brave like you.
I'm only brave when I have to be. Simba, being brave doesn't mean you go looking for trouble.
But you're not scared of anything.
I was today.
You were?
Yes. I thought I might lose you.
Oh, I guess even kings get scared, huh?
Mm-hmm.
But you know what?
What?
I think those hyenas were even scarier.
'Cause nobody messes with your dad. Come here, you.
Oh, no! Dad? We're pals, right?
Right.
Which I don't know. Is anyone planning to see Mufasa at the cinema that's coming out soon or is out? Because I am not. Because I didn't like the first one.
Yeah, I had a choice between seeing that and Sonic 3, and I saw Sonic 3.
Yeah, I saw Sonic 3 as well, and I thought that was fun.
I did too.
But
I took my son to see Sonic 3 yesterday, and those movies are a lot better than they have any right to be.
Yeah,
I will say that.
It's really good fun. But anyway, back to The Lion King. So I think are we all in agreement that the original animated version of The Lion King is probably one of the greatest things that Walt Disney feature animation has ever done?
Yeah.
It is probably as close to a perfect Disney animated movie as you can get.
Yeah. And we were talking obviously about music in The Crow. I mean, the music in The Lion King, Sir Elton John, Tim Rice, legendary. I think we can quite easily say it's legendary.
Not only that, but this is my favorite Hans Zimmer score.
Yeah, it's beautiful score.
Yeah.
I mean, this movie is gorgeous. It is literally the best of Disney hand-drawn animation ever. And I don't understand how they messed it up so much with the quote-unquote live-action remake. Maybe it's because animals, realistic, photorealistic animals can't emote like animated
I was just going to say that. I was just going to say that. I mean,
it's so bad.
John Oliver brought that up. John Oliver brought that up with his Zazu. It's like, it's just a flapping beak.
But the thing is, like, the 2019 one, it looks beautiful. It really does. But that's it. And it's soulless. It feels soulless. The original animated Lion King movie It has so much passion and soul. And considering this was basically the B movie to Pocahontas, Pocahontas was the A movie. Pocahontas was the movie that Disney were like, Pocahontas is going to be the greatest movie. Anyone wants to work on Pocahontas, and we'll get the dregs to work on The Lion King, and The Lion King turns out to be one of the biggest things that they've ever released, and it's absolutely wonderful. It's imminently rewatchable. You can watch it with your grandparents, you can watch it with your children. It still has resonating themes. I still cry when Mufasa dies. Spoiler alert. Sorry to anyone who's not seen The Lion King, but Mufasa dies quite tragically.
I was going to get started with Mufasa and work my way up. Thanks.
Oh, sorry. There's and just like the beauty of the animation, like the wildebeest stampede, the colours, the vivacity of it, just the performances, everything about this movie is iconic. I can't say anything. I will not say anything bad about it because I can't. Everything it's a perfect movie. It's just a perfect movie. Yeah. Apart from the one we're talking about next, which is even more perfect. But there's a reason why that one's more perfect.
For varying reasons, exactly. I think The Lion King is just it's astounding how good it looks. That said, it's not my favorite Disney movie, but I'm not taking away from what it accomplishes, because it does accomplish a lot of great stuff. I mean, Jeremy Irons got his role in Die Hard 3 solely because of Scar, because nobody was like, oh God, he really is evil. This is perfect. Yeah. The voice, the fact that we finally were able to appreciate Nathan Lane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that's just every time we hear Hakuna Matata in the car and I'm with the family, we all like do the same little head bop in the middle of the song, like when they're doing that in the movie. It's just our thing. And it's a really fun movie. I don't understand why they wouldn't let Matthew Broderick sing, though. Because he had just won a Tony for Best Performer in a Musical. It's like, you can't have him sing. I mean, Jonathan Taylor Thomas, sure, yeah. I don't know what his vocal chops are, but I mean, they let Jeremy Irons sing, for God's sakes.
But he's so good in Be Prepared. Like,
good.
Be Prepared is such a great song. But the thing is, it's like there are so many great songs here. Like Hakuna Matata is one of those songs that, if I'm feeling low, like if I've had a really bad day at work, I can put that song on and it just lifts me immediately. It's the power of animation. It's the power of the music. Like I can visualize what they're doing in the movie when they're singing the song, and it just brings a smile to my face. But Be Prepared is one of those songs that it shouldn't work. Jeremy Irons shouldn't work in that song.
Right.
But he's so like deliciously campy, evil. It's so good. All of the songs are so good. And I remember when I was a kid, I recorded, you remember when we used to have like tape recorders? We had the VHS of The Lion King. And I got a tape recorder. I put it like as close to the speaker as I could to record the songs on tape, so I could have the tape in my bedroom so I could sing along to the songs. That's awesome. Because that was before, obviously, I didn't have a CD player then. It was literally just tapes. And I didn't have the soundtrack on tape. That was the only way. And I did it with lots of the Disney movies, actually. I had like Disney tapes that I'd recorded off the VHS, and they were really terrible quality, but I loved Be Prepared. I remember singing that when I was a kid. I'm sure my parents were laughing at me singing as Jeremy Irons, but he is so good.
Well, as long as you weren't like goose stepping down the down the hallways, I guess you should be fine.
I'm summoning my hyena friends.
Minor correction on Be Prepared, though. I just was looking it up because I'd heard that Jeremy Irons didn't sing all of "Be Prepared."
No, he didn't.
Yes.
No, he did not. Jim Cummings, I guess, sang the third verse because Jeremy Irons had gotten like a lung infection or something.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Oh man.
Yeah. So Jim Cummings, the voice of Ed the hyena, who's also a Disney voice acting legend.
Yep.
He's Winnie the Pooh. He's in like pretty much every animated thing they've ever done. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the longest time, this movie was the one that I'd seen in theaters the most. I think I saw it 5 times in theaters, and that was only topped recently with The Force Awakens.
I'm hearing some echo in the background is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I've got some echo as well.
Uh-oh.
Oh, it's
Lock
gone
down
now.
your headphones. All right, good. Yay. This movie is a who's who of actors. Post Aladdin, it's really interesting because this is really where they decided, you know what, let's just lean into as many celebrity voices as possible because you see that going forward. Maybe not so much with Pocahontas because it was just Mel Gibson, but all the other movies. This is a huge cast. This is an ensemble cast. So, this is fun. I haven't watched this one forever. I should have watched this with my niece and nephew before we went to Disney World, but that's neither here nor there. Anything else you guys want to talk about with The Lion King before we move on to M's last pick?
Just to say, it's episode 142 of Verbal Diorama, by the way.
All right. Well, M, close us out. Take us home.
Okay.
Just make sure that you keep it over 55 miles per hour.
I don't. Will we be able to make a Keanu reference with this one? I don't see it coming.
I don't see it coming either. So now it's time for the obligatory Dennis Hopper reference.
I was gonna introduce it with a dun 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 dun.
Oh God.
Dun 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 dun. Because just that piece of music, you know, when you got the titles and it's going down you would call it an elevator shaft, it's a lift shaft. The elevator shaft, and you've just going down floor by floor, and it's just that music kicks in. It's just, I love it so much. The final movie that we need to talk about is Speed.
What do you think, Jack? You think if you pick up all the bus drivers' teeth, they'll give you another medal? Jeez. You think I wouldn't have been prepared? 2 years I spent setting up that elevator job. 2 years I invested myself in it. You couldn't understand the kind of commitment that I have. You were in a man's life's work, and you think you can walk away. You got blinders on to the world. But I got your attention now, didn't I, Jack?
Why didn't you just come after me?
No, this is about me. This is about my money. This is about money due me, which I will collect. $3.7 million. It's my nest egg, Jack. At my age, you gotta think ahead.
When I find you...
Pop quiz, hotshot. There's a bomb on a bus. Once the bus goes 50 miles an hour, the bomb is armed. If it drops below 50, it blows up. What do you do? What do you do?
I'd want to know what bus it was.
You think I'm going to tell you that?
Yes.
Very good. There are rules, Jack, and I want you to get this right. No one goes off the bus. You try to take any passengers off the bus, I will detonate it. I want my money by 11 a.m.
Now, you guys may not know this, so I'm just going to let you know. It stars a very little-known actor. I think his name is Keanu Reeves. I think.
Oh wait! Didn't he play a Ted on that little movie?
Ted?
No, you know what? You know who I'm thinking of? I'm thinking of the guy from Babes in Toyland that came out in the late 80s.
Oh, yeah.
Drew
him.
Barrymore, that guy.
Yeah, that guy.
He never done anything after this, didn't he?
No, whatever happened to that guy?
I don't know.
God.
Seems like
He's doing okay. Yeah, so
He seemed like a friendly bloke.
Yeah, he seems lovely, doesn't he? Someone should make a podcast and have an obligatory reference for him every episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, hopefully someone will do that. But in the meantime, yeah, this movie is awesome. End of podcast. Right, it's been really nice to chat to you guys.
Yeah,
I'll see you again next year. Bye.
This movie, I will fight anybody who doesn't like this one. This is so much fun. It uses its time efficiently, which is a weird thing to say about an action movie, but I feel like there's no dead spots in this movie at all. Even when you get away from the bus, there's no dead spots.
It's a movie that really doesn't have any business working as well as it really does.
Yeah.
No.
It's like if this was, it feels like everything came together like perfectly. You had like this first-time director who used to be a cinematographer, this unknown kind of untested action star, this lead actress who'd only been in Demolition Man. All of these kind of things kind of came together, and it's like it shouldn't work. It shouldn't work, and yet it works better than pretty much any action movie of the 90s. Well, Die Hard was 80s, so we can discount Die Hard.
Yeah,
but yeah, there's nothing else in the 90s works to this level. In my opinion, I feel like this is like the creme de la creme of everything. You know, it's like Dennis Hopper. You know, he was a huge star in the 70s. And it's like he's the bad guy in this movie. And, you know, has the biggest name in the movie, pretty much. Honestly, this movie blows my mind, not only with how good it is. I don't know if you guys have ever heard a podcast. It was genuinely one of my favorites of last year. It was actually called 50 Miles an Hour, the podcast. And it's 50 episodes, each episode dedicated to a different story behind the making of Speed.
Wow.
Genuinely outstanding podcast. I mean, I lapped it up because I was like, this is my bread and butter. And the guy who hosts it, a guy called Chris Tapley, he interviews cast and crew. He interviews like extras on the bus. And just, you know, people like that, tiny people who were involved along the way. But it's a phenomenally made movie. And like you said, Andy, like it doesn't stop. Like just when you think, oh, you know, we're getting to the end. Oh, no, we're off the bus. You know, now we need to go onto the train, you know, and do all of that. And it's just, everything is practical. It's so well done. Like 10 out of 5 stars.
Yeah. It's going back and looking at
55 out of 10 stars.
Yep. Going back and looking at the movies that were released just in this year alone, in terms of just like straight up action movies, you know, it's just, I mean, this thing kicks so much ass. I mean, we talked in the last episode about like True Lies, which I think is kind of its closest comparison point. They're both released by the same studio, both released in the same summer. But this movie is just so much more effective. It's not trying to tell a whole bunch of other stories. It's not trying to be funny. When it is funny, it works because it's just kind of like there just to alleviate a little bit of the tension.
And it's more character driven.
Yeah.
Exactly. The whole thing, you know, the shoot the hostage stuff. And then, you know, Jeff Daniels getting pissed with him when he actually did shoot him. I'll shoot you. It's just, it's so well put together. And even though you only see them, you don't get like full backstories on people like, Jack, Traven, or any of the other characters. You still feel for them. When Jeff Daniels dies in this movie, you feel, not only do you feel that pain because it's one of the greatest, like, I'm dead and I know it shots in cinema history, but when Jack just loses it when he picks up the phone, he's like, Harry, and then it's Dennis Hopper saying Harry didn't make it.
Yeah.
And it was just, ooh, that's tough, because you never saw their real backstory or how long they've been together as partners, but man, do you feel it.
Yeah, and I think that's the point. Like, you don't need to know. Any other movie would have had an elaborate backstory about, they started working together 10 years ago, and blah, all of that sort of stuff. This movie doesn't need that, because Keanu Reeves is so good in this movie by being basically the everyman hero. John McClane was the everyman hero. He was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. And Jack Traven is exactly the same. Yes, he's a police officer. Yes, he's got a gun. He's got beautiful, beautiful arms that are very muscular. And I want them to hold me all night long. But apart from that, like, he is the everyman hero. Like, he's just a cop in this situation. Like, he's found himself in this situation. But the way he treats other people, the way he reacts to things, he reacts in an honest, heartfelt way. Your partner's just died. He reacts in the way you would expect, with frustration and anger. But what I love about this movie so much is this movie feels, it's obviously got a script, sort of. There's a whole story about the script of this movie. But I feel like the characters in this movie are so relatable. If you look at Sandra Bullock's Annie, how she ends up driving the bus and how she looks to Jack Traven for help, comfort. She needs him there to know that she's doing a good job.
Yeah, and like,
I feel like the characters in this movie feel human. They feel real. They feel like how you would react in a situation. Jack Traven is not a macho hunky, even though he is. He's not a macho kind of 90s action hero. He's not Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's not Sylvester Stallone. He is your average, everyday guy who just happens to be in this situation and is doing the best he can in this situation. But he's in touch with his emotions. And I think Keanu Reeves was absolutely perfectly cast for this, because he looks like the everyman in a way. Even though he's Keanu Reeves, bizarrely, it looks like he could be just a random LAPD officer. He's SWAT team, isn't he? He's not like a random officer, but just
bomb squad.
Yeah, bomb squad. But I feel like his character is so well put together, and maybe this has obviously come from Keanu as well, and obviously what he imbued into the character. But he feels real, like he feels like a real person. They all on this bus feel like real people who just want to get home to their families. And and I love the relationship between Jack and Annie. I think they have a really believable relationship. They obviously fancy each other. We know that Sandra and Keanu fancied each other in real life. It's clear, let's be honest. It is there on the screen. But everything feels organic in this movie. And you get that from this kind of pairing, this first-time director. I feel like everything feels very, in a way, shambolic, but that was just the production. The production was shambolic, but I feel like something organic came from that, and you cannot replicate that. Hollywood have tried to replicate Speed. They tried in Speed 2. It failed dismally for many reasons, but you can't replicate that dynamic again. It's wonderful.
This is lightning in a bottle. It really was. Honestly, one of the most enjoyable movies of this release year.
Yeah, I mean, going, the relationship between Jack and Annie. For me, the point that really stands out in that is actually that scene after he's find out that that Jeff Daniels' character dies. He just starts losing it, and Annie's the one that has to kind of pull him back.
Yeah,
saying like, I need you. We need you here.
Yeah. And it feels real. Like it feels like she is really pleading with him to get it together because this bus needs him to get it together.
Yeah.
And that is it's just so, it feels like for a lot of action movies, it feels like, yeah, you can just read lines off a script. But to me, that feels like what would happen in a real situation.
Yeah.
And I think that's why this movie in particular, I feel like that's why it resonates. You know, all of these movies are now 30 years old. But for me, Speed is one of the very few movies that are 30 years old this year that still feel very fresh. Like, yeah, it could easily be made today. It wouldn't be made the same, but it could be made today.
Yeah.
It just feels like this is what Hollywood is supposed to be. This is what we expect from our action movies, to have these believable relationships within them. Not all of them succeed like Speed does, but I bought Speed on 4K. It's one of 2 movies that I own on 4K, and it's absolutely gorgeous in 4K. And I think one of the reasons why it's so good looking is because of the practicality of it, the fact that it was a real bus, you know, the fact that all of the explosions are real, everything feels tangible. I think this is damn near a perfect movie. I really do.
I mean, you feel that heat in those explosions. That's how real this movie feels. I bought this movie on like widescreen VHS when it came out. It's like, well, you have to. I mean, come on. Joe, you've been silent about this one. What are your thoughts on this one?
Oh, I remember watching it in the movie theater and just being blown away by it, especially because when I went in to watch it, I thought the premise was so hokey.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I went into it more as a lark, and I'm like, yeah, okay, this is going to be kind of stupid, but I'll watch it. And just came away watching from it like, wow, that really was a lot better than I thought it was going to be.
It's one of those movies I feel is just, it's so much better than they had any initial right to be. Now, when I watched this not too long ago, and I had my daughter watching with me, she kind of tapped out early. I'm like, what is wrong with you? I mean, come on. This is...
I put her up for adoption now. Like, get rid of that kid. I'm joking.
She's almost an adult now. I can't do anything about it. But yeah, no, she's like, this is dull. I'm like, all right, well, we haven't left the office building yet. Well, we haven't left the office building yet. And that's where the talking all happens. And that's where we get to learn the dynamic of Jack and Harry.
Right.
But dang, what a great movie to choose to close this out with, because that Speed is just so good. It really, truly is.
If I may.
You may.
So yeah, this was the movie that developed my big crush on Keanu Reeves, was this movie. And I wrote to the research desk at the Boston Globe, because this is like really pre-internet, and was like, so when's his birthday?
Oh no.
Back there, like, here you go. And this was when I went to work for the bus company at UMass. And we had the big cardboard lobby display of the movie poster. They changed the number on the front to match one of the buses in our fleet that looked very similar. And you know, I'm going through training, and several people would be like, "Okay, pop quiz, hot shot." And it's like you're driving a bus and getting that question, and it's just.
Yep.
So yeah.
What do you do? What do you do?
Well, it was like pop quiz, hot shot. How many times does the sign blink before the light turns green?
And you're like, Dennis Hopper never mentioned that in the movie.
at that particular intersection, I remember, I think it was 16. And then you'd know that you were getting ready to go. And so it was just, it was, because, you know, this movie was great. It was iconic. Everybody latched onto it, including a bus company full of college students who were just all about this movie. We were.
the most responsible people on the face of the planet.
And I think.
Well, the unofficial motto was, "When we're not driving, we're drinking." But
Oh, okay.
yeah, but we did not. Obviously, it was like there were random drug tests, random drug tests, breathalyzers, everything like that.
Yeah.
Obviously,
But then
good.
again,
But,
Your Honor, the state rests.
but yeah, it was. We had a lot of fun about this movie at the bus company, and I just want to make sure that cut.
No, I can imagine. I can imagine this was kind of like the movie, because it's like representing buses and bus companies all over America. I will say that I know you can pull this movie apart with things like LA traffic. I've been to LA. I know what the traffic is like in LA, even at 8 a.m. in the morning. And obviously you do have to have a certain, you have to suspend your disbelief a little bit with especially nowadays, I imagine. I've not been to LA for 10 years, but I imagine the traffic's worse now. But, you do have to suspend your disbelief. But I feel like...
Oh, yeah. Like the fact that when you open rear doors on a bus, it immediately engages the parking brake. So the part where they get the passengers off the bus doesn't work. But
well, it was obviously a special brand of bus. I don't know. But yeah, no, I think
they knew to flip the switch and decided not to bore the audience with that part.
Yeah,
they must have pulled a wire somewhere.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. You've got to have some artistic license, because if it's like, well, this bus can't go below 50, and then you're like, well, actually, the parking brake could go on. It's like, well, then everyone's dead. So then the movie's over.
It's Americans' half-assed craftsmanship at its very best, right?
Yeah.
Hey, that parking brake was supposed to go on. What do you want me to do about it?
Yeah, you're like, we're being authentic to this brand of bus. And obviously we know that the bus couldn't jump that gap in the freeway. Like, we all know. I know that they've done, I think they did a Mythbusters on it. Like,
no.
But who cares? Because it's so cinematic. And they did the jump for real. And I love it. I love that they did that for real. And, everything about this movie is perfect. And I just wanted to give a shout out. I know he's no longer with us, but, shout out to Dennis Hopper for literally just being one of the most iconic villains in modern cinema history. I feel like he literally gave everything to that role, and I think he's perfect in it. He's good.
When he rages out when he realizes that they looped the video.
Yes, it's so good.
Yeah,
it's so good, because he's at that point, like, he's the smartest person in the room, or in the movie. And, he's thought every step ahead the whole way. And, when he notices, like, her skirt.
It's the woman. Yeah, the woman moves her purse.
Skirt. Oh, but her purse moves, and then the skirt moves a bit as well.
Yeah.
And, when he notices that, and just, the anger. He's so good. He's so good in this movie. Yeah. And, like I say, this is very, very close to a perfect movie. I don't even care that it's not real. Like,
his line when Jack's like, "You're crazy," he's just like, "No, I'm not crazy. Poor people are crazy. I'm eccentric."
Yeah.
That line is great. And then at the end, when he just, they're on top, they're fighting on top of the train, and he's like, "I'm smarter than you. I'm always going to win because I'm smarter than you." And then he knocks his head off, and then Jack's like, "Yeah, I'm taller." I thought that was one of the funniest lines. And as somebody who has been very critical of Keanu Reeves' line delivery in certain things, that's a zinger. That was really well delivered.
Yeah.
Well played, Mr. Reeves.
Everyone in this movie is perfect, like pitch perfect.
Everybody.
And Keanu, like I say, no one could play this like Keanu Reeves. That's why Speed 2 didn't work. Not only because it was on a bloody cruise ship, but also because they couldn't bring back Keanu Reeves. So what's the point? Like, what is the point of Speed 2?
They bring back Timu. Yeah, Timu Keanu Reeves in the form of Jason Patrick.
Yeah, poor Jason Patrick.
If you order Keanu through Wish.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, wish.com Keanu Reeves, exactly.
Yeah. We got Keanu Reeves at home. So.
I wish I could have that. Literally, that is my wish.com. But anyway, he's a married man now, so I've got to stay away.
That's true.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much. Thanks for being able to work your schedule so we could all have this conversation within the calendar year.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you
wonderful
so much.
to have you
Thank
back.
you so much for having me. It's been an absolute joy as always to chat to you guys. And like I say, I'm sorry that we've had a couple of delays on this.
Quite all right. I'm glad things are better now.
Yeah. I had a bit of a family emergency, unfortunately. The last time we tried to schedule, had a bit of a family emergency, but everything's fine, so it's all good.
Yay!
But yeah, it's all good now. But
it was worth the wait.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. And it's obviously great to speak to you guys in between Christmas and New Year, and obviously, it's that lovely time of the year when basically most people are off work and having a great time. Well, that's at least I'm off work now till the new year and having a great time. But
Same.
Hopefully all of you guys are off work as well and having a great time too.
Same.
But yeah, it's always a joy, and I look forward to doing it again next year. But let's try and maybe do like November. We'll schedule something for November.
Do something earlier.
Yeah.
So awesome. So let our listening audience know where they can find you. You've talked quite a bit about this podcast, but tell us a little bit about it and where we can find it.
I mean, I have a podcast. If you're a regular listener of Geek Salad, then you'll have heard me on this podcast several times in the past, because for some reason they keep inviting me back. I don't know why. Maybe I'm decent. But I do have a podcast. It is called Verbal Diorama. It is a film history podcast. I love to talk about the making of movies. I have talked about a lot of the movies we've talked about on this episode because I'm just a big fan of how movies are made. And basically, the weirder, the stranger, the most incomprehensible story, the better, as far as I'm concerned. That's how you end up with episodes on Street Fighter and the Flintstones. But you can find Verbal Diorama on, well, basically wherever you find Geek Salad, on any podcast app of choice. I am just wrapping up episode 283 at the moment, which will be coming out in January. I will be in animation season by the time this episode comes out, which is always fun because I love talking about animated movies. 2025 is going to be a big year for the podcast. There's all sorts of stuff going on. I'm really excited about it, and I've been doing this 6 years now. Not quite as long as the Geek Salad guys have been doing it, but we can't all be as perfect as they are. We just lag behind and hope for the best.
I just want to point out she's lapped us in the number of episodes, by the way. So it's
That's because,
we don't release as frequently.
No.
With a 10-year, we had a 10-year head start, and we are in terms of overall episode totals.
Yeah, but I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and I like to do an episode a week. But the thing is, you've got multiple people, you've got multiple schedules to figure out, and your episodes are long. You've got 2-hour plus episodes. Mine are like 45 minutes, so there's a big difference. And obviously, it's not all about quantity; it's about quality as well. So I would say Geek Salad is a quality podcast. Just because it's a quantity podcast doesn't mean it's not a quality podcast.
And you've got quality and quantity.
Oh, So let me know where to make checks payable to, and I'll get that in the post.
Well, thank you so much. And for everybody who is new to our podcast, maybe you're coming over because you love Em so much, you decided to give us a listen as well. Check out everything past, present, and maybe future. We do this, we try to do this once a month. And if you want to follow us, we are on the socials at Facebook at Geek Salad Podcast. We are on Blue Sky, Twitter for the time being, and Threads at Geek Salad Radio. And check out our YouTube channel where you can get the audio for these shows at Geek Salad Podcast, as well as Mike and my retro movie reviews. We do those every week. We just finished up a whole great series of Mystery Science Theater and Riff Tracks Christmas episodes with our friends Triv from Trivial Cinema and Kurt Smith, friend of everybody's podcast. So check those out. So I think I'm not forgetting anything except for what we're doing next week or next episode. So next episode, Mike, do you want to tell us what your idea was?
Sure. Just give me a moment to look it up because I can't remember off the top of my head.
Okay, I can say it if you want me to.
I'm just reading it. Oh yeah. I figure we'll pick some movies, video games, TV shows, whatever that we love, but no one else seems to have heard of or haven't seen them in ages. It just doesn't seem to be in the zeitgeist. So just kind of giving people options for what they can make their resolutions for, for 2025. We want you to watch this. We want you to play this, whatever.
Oh, that's a good idea. I like that.
Yeah, so we're going to do that in the coming year. So that'll be fun. Now I have to think of something that's like super obscure that nobody's seen or listened to or played or whatever. I know Joe and Catherine are also like, oh, good Lord, what?
Andy, you with super obscure things? No way.
I'm sure I could find something. But anyway, that is our episode. Thanks again for joining us. It's so wonderful to have you on here again. And hey, folks, thank you for another great year. 2024 was a mixed bag for a lot of us, but hey, 2025 will be a slightly shinier mixed bag. So thank you so much, everybody, for listening to us in this past year. And until next time, I'm Andy.
I'm Mike.
I'm Joe.
And we also had it. There we go. Go forth and be nerdful. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Yay.
Let's hear you call Boris Karloff a cocksucker.